world and how she's a part of that revolution. Because I think what's really exciting, and let me move over here so you all can see me better, is that there are a lot of great tools out there. There's a lot of great opportunity out there, and we really wanted to bring forward that idea that if you want something, you can find it. Doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be prohibited, and that a lot of those barriers are really coming down, and that we need to give our communities the opportunity to take them. So thank you so much, Janice.
It is my pleasure. I am really glad to see those of you who are sticking with me. I promise that I will do my best to entertain you. I talk loud, I talk fast. Please stop me if I swear too much or something, just let me know. Okay, so we are going to talk about Lean Startup. Jesse gave me pretty free rein on what I was going to talk about today, and I think that this is the most important message for me to bring to a community. Are there still investors in the room? One. Okay, I'll talk to you. And active entrepreneurs with your own company, you're in it all the way. Like, this is it. Okay, this is for you, for sure. Who else is still here? Like, if you didn't raise your hand yet, what do you do? Finance. Awesome. For startups? For everything. Good. Well, put your startups hat on for this one. What else? Anybody? Nonprofits. Nonprofits are startups too, unless it's like one that's been around forever. So you're in as well. Okay. So everybody's probably heard the words Lean Startup. Yes? No. Awesome. Fresh meat. But really, almost everybody I talk to about Lean Startup really doesn't know a lot about it. There are a lot of misconceptions. So I'm going to bust some myths. I'm going to tell a story and hopefully wake you up a little bit. Okay, here we go. So this is a little bit about me. My company is Luxor. I've been doing this kind of work since 1996 when the blink tag was big and JavaScript was just launched. Netscape is the company that kind of made the internet a household phenomenon. So for those of you who are too young to remember that. I currently advise a number of companies, either as a consultant or, which I don't do much consulting, but I have a few clients, or as an advisor. I do a lot more advisory work. So there's that. My company, Luxor Co., provides radically helpful workshops for startup founders. So for people who are really in it, who have make or break decisions to make every day, I think entrepreneurs, we're in a difficult spot, because we're expected to be experts in everything automatically as soon as we start our company, and the truth is that we're not, and so we try to help you not screw up so bad that you kill your company. You can use the discount code LSA Summit if you want to get a first month free. There are about 10 workshops on the site right now, more coming every week. All right, please do tweet. I personally am Clever Girl. I am grouchy and loud and bursty on my Twitter. If you want really useful, regular, relevant tweets, follow Luxor Co. Luxor Co is the company. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story about June and Pete, my friends, and their wedding cake. This is June and this is Pete, and they're going to get married in a few short months, and they have to figure out all the details of their wedding, including their wedding cake. And so, of course, June goes onto Pinterest, because what else are you going to do when you're planning a wedding but go onto Pinterest and find the wedding cake of your dreams? And she found this one, and she brought it to Pete, and she said, "Pete, isn't this the most beautiful wedding cake you have ever seen? Amazing, beautiful wedding cake." And Pete looks at it and he goes, "Oh my God, that looks like something that my Aunt Martha would like. I can't stand it. It's old-fashioned. It is so not us. No, no way, no way." And poor June is devastated. Not really. It turns out that she's a product manager at a Lean Startup, and so she decides to treat Pete like her customer and to treat the wedding cake like their product. So she and her cake-making friend go into the kitchen and come back with this. Boom. Beautiful, little teeny tiny things. Not wedding cake, it's not threatening. So she gives it to Pete, and he takes a bite, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is the most delicious cake I've ever had. I love this cake. I want this cake at our wedding. It is delicious." She said, "That's great. Thank you so much for that feedback. That's awesome. How do you feel about the way it looks?" He's like, oh my God, I cannot stand pink flowers. Like, are you kidding me? Roses on our wedding cake? Could you get more cliche? Seriously. She's like, all right, fine, no problem. Is there anything you like about the way that it looks? Well, I really like those kind of swirly things at the bottom. Like, I kind of like that swirly texture. That's pretty cool. Okay, we can go with that. And so she goes, awesome. She and her cake making friends go back into the kitchen and come back with this. It's the same cake recipe. It's the same frosting recipe. It's got the pink swirlies all over the whole cake. And Pete says, that's really cool looking. And it's still delicious. I love this. So we're going to have this for our wedding, right? But, like, please, no pink. No pink. I love the all over texture. I love that there are no flowers. No pink. June and her friend go, awesome, awesome. We have it. We know. All over texture, not pink, and this recipe. We're good. And this is what they come up with. All over texture, totally original, so interesting. And Pete loves it. He's like, oh my God, June, this is it. This is us. It is so classy. It is so unusual. It looks like a hat. How did you make it look like a hat? That's so awesome. And so now June and Pete are really excited together about their product, the wedding cake. And June is so nice. I don't know if this will go, how many of you are Doctor Who fans? Doctor Who? 1, 2, awesome, Doctor Who fans. June is so nice, she lets Pete put the TARDIS on top as their wedding cake topper. Apologies to those who don't love Doctor Who. All right, so look at where we've come. We started here with something that was lovely but conventional, and we ended up at something that was really novel and special. And they did it through a series of experiments by putting a real thing into the world and getting real human response to that and observing it and being thoughtful. And that is the core of Lean Startup. That is what Lean Startup means. When you're in a situation of extreme uncertainty, you have to do experiments. So now we're going to go into the dogma of Lean Startup and hopefully bust some of the misunderstandings. So this is Eric Ries, the inventor of Lean Startup. How many of you have seen this guy before? Yes, yes, Lean Eric. Here's what he looks like now. Ta-da! Next week is the Lean Startup Conference. He will fill the Masonic Auditorium and he will preach the gospel of Lean Startup to a whole bunch of enterprises who can afford to pay $1,600 for a ticket. I'm here to tell you that Lean Startup is still for startups and it actually matters a lot to your future. So here's what it is not. Lean has nothing to do with the amount of money you spend. It is not about being cheap. It's not about being parsimonious. It's not about bootstrapping. What it is about is being efficient, using every dollar that you spend to have an inordinate positive impact on what you're doing. So lean is about efficiency, not about fat, or not about cheap. It is also not fast. So here's the thing. If you remember, there was a startup once called Color that raised $40 million from their VC friends, spent a bunch of that money, didn't show the product to anybody for a year, launched the product. It was an absolute disaster. Nobody knows what it does, even to this day, and the company shut down immediately. That's the fast way. The fast way is to never talk to your customers. The fast way is to not make prototypes. The fast way is to ignore all of the hard problems and just go on your instinct and on your gut, right? If you go on your gut, you might get somewhere really fast, but the place that you get to might really suck, okay? So it is not fast startup. It actually demands that you ask the hardest questions first and answer them before you really have permission to move on. So you have a great idea. You make that great idea. It'd be better to make that great idea in a weekend and see how it goes than to make that idea in 2 years for $200,000 or $2 million and then find out that it sucks. So it is not fast to ask and answer these questions. If you find out that your idea is awful in 2 weeks, what do you do then? Well, you try again. That's called a pivot. And then you try again, and then you try again, and then you try again. My company's been around for 3 years. We started as a professional services firm, realized we had something scalable. This is our fourth go-to-market plan. Because each one, we've done a scale experiment, we took it as far as it seemed to go, and then we had to pivot. So 3 years, 3 pivots, 4th attempt, 4th shot on goal, and we're doing great. We're doing great. It might feel like we're not, but we're doing great. And here's why. It's because we know so much more now than we did. So we made our cupcake. We made the layer cake. Now we're making the wedding cake. So that's the point of Lean Startup. Last one, it is not a shortcut. It is not a shortcut. The thing about the shortcut is that it's a roll of the dice. If you take a shortcut, you know, raise your $40 million collar, throw something out into the world because you're so damn smart, and suddenly you're a failure. All right, that happens. That's the shortcut. What Lean Startup does is it reduces the risk. So you're raising the floor on failure. You're getting the failure out of the system really, really fast so you can move on to the things that actually have merit. You fail really quickly so that you can move on and learn something and put something out into the market that actually has value. Okay. So if that's what Lean Startup is not, what is it? Lean Startup is an approach, and for most of us who have been around for a while, we saw Lean Startup and we went, well, yeah, that's like plain logic. That's exactly how everything ought to have gone, and all the good companies that we know actually do it that way. So this is merely a codification of some patterns that Eric Ries and others saw for building companies and products in specific in situations of extreme uncertainty. So there's always the question, when should we use Lean Startup and when should we not use Lean Startup? Well, you use Lean Startup when you're in a situation of extreme uncertainty. You have no product in the market, you have no brand, you have no customers to rely on. Right? If Procter & Gamble is making a new toothbrush, they have a lot of historical data. They have a lot of learning. They have 20 mistakes under their belt that they've already made on the toothbrush front. Right? They have a brand reputation. They have panels of customers. As a startup, you don't have any of that. Okay, so extreme uncertainty. So when you're in a situation of extreme uncertainty, what do you do that's different? Well, you approach things as experiments. You make small batch sizes, like cupcakes instead of a wedding cake, right? So small batch size, experiments, learn from real people in real situations. So that's what the core of Lean Startup is. And the goal of Lean Startup is to reduce waste. All right, so what is the process for Lean Startup? Well, list your assumptions, understand your customers, experiment efficiently, and adjust direction based on evidence. This is what June did with her cupcakes. Okay. So build, measure, learn is the core idea in Lean Startup, but here's the trick. You have to go backward to go forward. You have to start with, what do I want to learn? How would I measure that? And what would I need to build in order to generate that metric? Okay, so you have to figure out, what do you want to learn before you build a thing? Well, I want to learn whether, so in generating the cupcake idea, I want to learn whether Pete likes the food. Does he like the cake part of the cake? Yes, okay, I can do that through a small scale experiment of making cupcakes. Awesome. All right, backward to go forward. I doubt that there are a lot of developers. Developers, how many developers? Are you TDD people? Test-driven development? Well, this is test-driven company. So if that means anything to you, now you get it. This is TDD for your whole company. All right, ultimately, Lean Startup is measured, victory is measured in learning. The goal of Lean Startup, the goal of any entrepreneur, is to learn. How is this product? Does it match the customer needs? Is it priced well? Who's in my supply chain? Do we have a virtuous cycle for all of that? You have to learn these things, right? So victory is measured in learning. I used to run a professional services firm, so I got to write this into proposals over and over and over, this process for making things. The process for making things is that we think something up. We make some specifications, we build and maybe launch something. There's always a backlog of stuff we didn't get to build, so you keep building. Maybe you do a little bit of usability testing at the very end, which tells you all the things you got wrong, and you keep going. And that's what it looks like. And the thing about this is that over time, what's happening is that by not ever examining the customer's real response in real time, you're building risk. You're building up risk. So at the very end, what happens? It fails. In the late 90s, there was a statistic that was very popular to toss around, and I believe it's still true, and that was that 80% of IT investments were absolute wastes of money. They were failures that were eventually ripped out. Failures. And this is why. This is why. Agile has gone a long way toward making those IT investments more effective, but really it's Lean Startup that changes the game. So instead of building up all this risk with the big fat green line, we're going to build, measure, learn our way. Let's see if we can get a, hello. There we go. We're going to build something, we're going to launch it and evaluate it, and we're going to learn from that. And then we're going to build again, and we're going to do that. And so I call this the sawtooth. So instead of climbing the huge mountain that you could fall off of, we're going to do a little sawtooth action, right? Build, measure, learn. Cupcake, layer cake, oh, awesome, wedding cake, TARDIS on top, woo, right? So it feels really different. The kind of work, the pace of work, the nature of work is very different when you abandon this concept of a roadmap, product roadmap, and a specification. Maybe you still have to talk that way to investors to persuade them. Investors, I'm talking to you. Maybe you have to talk that way to investors to persuade them to give you money. But the truth is that is not possible. It's not possible to draw a product roadmap and then follow it and have a successful startup guaranteed. You're taking your life in your hands if you do that. All right. The thing that's important that I want you to know is that everything about this has this pervasive, subtle impact when you actually begin to embrace the concept of experimentation as the root function of your company in the early stages. It changes everything about how you collaborate. It changes the roles in your company. It changes how you think about pace, and it changes how you think about progress. So I'm doing a workshop next week at the Lean Startup Conference. And the entire purpose of the workshop is to teach people how to make experiments that have clear results. When you do an experiment, if you're a scientist, any scientists in the room? Yo, how many times do you run an experiment and have it deliver negative results? Your entire thesis, all the time, most of the time, that's the way it is. But a good experiment is one that delivers clear results. Yes? The last 6 months. I'm so sorry. I feel your pain, man. Yes. So a good experiment is one that delivers clear results, not one that validates your idea. Your hypothesis getting invalidated is a great result. So you're like, wow, I ran this experiment. It totally, told me that I was full of shit. Oh, awesome, congratulations, that's great. That is a new way of thinking. The only failure in a lean startup is ambiguous results. You run an experiment, an A/B test, and you're not sure which is the winner because it's not clear. That's the problem. So when you start to design your work processes around this, it's going to change who you are as an entrepreneur. And it is uncomfortable, and you need a community of people around you, and it will allow you to be more successful, more reliably. It may not be faster, but it's more reliable. Anyway, so that's all I've got to talk about. Thank you. Remember, Luxorco, radically helpful workshops for entrepreneurs and their teams, and LSA Summit to get 1 month free. That's it.